So FQ, you've had a busy morning this morning, or a busy evening.
Yeah, man, I'm caught in this fucking stupidity in my country, and I'm trying my best to counter it because our government's just not seeing sense. It's
Yeah.
insane, man.
Man, I totally understand that. And, one of the things I must say is, I'm pretty critical of, governors, leaders, provincial leaders, and so forth. And I am going to say, my governor, the governor of my state, Arizona, yesterday came out and said that he believes all Arizonans should wear a mask. And so what he has done, even though, and he's getting criticized right now for not coming down with more of a, more of a mandate to wear the mask. But what he's doing is he's allowing local leadership to kind of take and determine that. So, determine what's best for their community. So, you know what? It's a step in the right direction. And so for that, I'm thankful and grateful that at least I feel like we're at least going to move in the right direction of encouraging people to wear masks as opposed to just, social distance. And I am going to say, and I'm not going to, get off too much on this, but I watched one of my local news stations last night talking about this with the governor's announcement. And it was really interesting how the reporter, kind of created a narrative. They ad-libbed a little bit and basically said, well, the governor is saying, to wear the mask when you can't social distance. When you watch what the governor said, that is not what they said. They said all Arizonans should wear a mask. We should all be acting as responsible citizens and so forth. So it's interesting how, things get lost in translation because people ad lib or, they don't. I'm just a big believer. If somebody's giving a quote or a soundbite to the news, use it. Yeah. Let's not cut, paste, edit, and everything else to create something. So kind of interesting how that happened, but end of the day, it's a really cool thing because we are moving towards mandatory masks, at least here in my community. And I'm not going to worry about parts of my state that are 4 to 6 hours away from me, as I don't even go to those.
So like Singapore's technologically advanced. And I was seeing this research this morning. While we speak, I'll pull it out of a wearable contact device, like a watch or something, like a band. So if you a contact tracer. Yeah. And apparently 43% people said we don't want to wear it. So, and Singaporeans are like the most regimented country in the world. I mean, you get fined if you take a piss in the wrong way. You don't flush, you get a fine. You chew gum, you get a fine. Right? Chewing gum is banned in Singapore. So when shit like that happens there, it's like, what, really? Can they even think that far? But yeah, people even today, they're going like, how can he be selfish? And I think there was a tagline which said, a recent survey in the Trace Together wearable device survey found that 57% respondents are willing to carry. And I think the tag was something about be selfish. Yeah. So, and I shared it saying, I can't wait for a fucking injectable subcutaneous tracking device. Why not, man?
Well, what I think is really funny, it's kind of it's like, oh, really? You don't want to wear this device, but if you called it an Apple Watch, it'd be flying off the shelves, right? I mean, it's kind of. I actually just looked this up. I did just as a matter of interest for myself. I looked it up, and so Kim Kardashian and her clothing line, she's actually she's got a whole line of seamless masks. So it's coming, man. I mean, it's coming, and if the Kardashians are going to do it, I mean, I'm certainly going to do it. But if my government wants me to do it, screw you, not doing it. So it's kind of interesting, and it actually kind of like, go ahead.
It's our revenge on you assholes. You know what? Don't wear a hijab, man. You're gonna all wear a fucking hijab. Toilet paper, and then you're all gonna learn to wash your ass. That's what's gonna happen, man.
Well, if this was only happening in America, I might tend to agree with you. But seeing as how it's a kind of a global thing, I think the universe is telling us all to clean it up just a little bit.
Cleaning it up. That's a funny choice of words.
Well, you can surmise what
you want. You said you were going to do a detailed thing about it, but you didn't. So let's talk about it today, man. Before we since we talk about
I'm not talking about it today. No, absolutely not. That's everything looks better when when you wait a little bit and you've got some teasers. So I'm not ready to go with that. However, the mask thing is actually, I think, really an interesting segue into what we're going to talk about, which is cultural obligations or expectations versus, personal choice or, agency or personal freedom. So, yeah, it's a really interesting topic. Here in the United States, one of the most controversial topics right now is the athletes. So, many of our professional athletes, what they do is Colin Kaepernick started the movement a few years ago, and basically they take a knee when the national anthem is played prior to a sporting event. They take the knee. So that's become very polarizing, very controversial, and so forth. The good thing is if Colin Kaepernick has stayed in shape, and kept his playing skills, honed and sharpened, there's a good chance he's going to be actually invited back into the NFL. So he might have just had a hiatus. Other sporting teams, sporting franchises are actually taking and saying, hey, we're going to take and support our players and their ability to take a knee and to protest and so forth. So it's a really interesting topic. But when we look at cultural obligations, man, I think one of the biggest ones, when you understand what culture truly refers to, and if you don't mind, I'm going to actually just go ahead and read the definition of culture, which is it's a set of ideas, behaviors, attitudes, and traditions that exist within large groups of people. They're usually it's usually common religion, family, or something similar. And a real big place where culture is the workplace. So these ideas, behaviors, traditions, etc., are typically passed on from one generation to the next. And the longer that these cultural norms are there, the more resistant they become to change. So it's really interesting when you look at how much you take family culture. You have society's culture, and then you break that even further down into family culture. And it's really interesting how many times we just simply go along with what's expected of us, and we give up what it is that we really, really want, or what we say we want.
In my part of the world, family culture, or family obligations is supreme. People destroy their lives for it. And there's a thing here we say, what will people say? Whereas in your culture, in the Western culture, you don't really give a shit about what people say, but you do care about what your parents want and stuff. Mm-hmm. But over here, our parents would force us to do something because what will people say? It's not so much their own dreams that are reflected on the children or the family's dreams reflected on the members of the family, but what will people say? We are so stuck on that shit. It is sickening. And also since we lack the right at the age of consent law, we have the age of consent law where at say 21, a person can make their own decisions or they become an adult. But unlike you, whereas when you turn 18, no one by law can interfere in your business.
Right.
If somebody interferes in your business, the law will reprimand them. Whereas here, it doesn't work that way. Age of consent only means now you can get a driver's license and you can own a gun, if we get it. You know what I'm saying? Or get married. But it's not that if I say I want to go against the wishes of my father, the law is not going to protect me. I'm on my own. So that's why you see all these stories of bloody honor killing and shit like that from our part of the world.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. I guess my real question is how often do these honor killings happen, or is it kind of like in the we see bad behavior, we see these things because it makes the news, and truthfully, nobody really wants to take and nobody wants to see a happy couple all the time. They like to see fights, right? I mean, we've talked about this. So, is that a common occurrence over there?
Well, let me elaborate why honor killings happen. We're going into an interesting topic here. No father or brother wants to kill their sister. You understand that?
Uh-huh.
But what happens is that supposing a young lady decides to marry somebody she loves against the wishes of their family. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen is when her family members, the men, would walk down the street or the bazaar, people around them say, "Oh, your sister's a slut, man.
Sure.
Oh, your daughter ran away with a man." And what will people say kicks in it's easier for them to go and kill that girl than to deal with the pressure just their street or neighborhood would be. In your case, whatever your parents are going to like. Over here, what your families think, what relatives think, what your street thinks, what fucking people you don't know anything about think. Mm-hmm. Even that matters.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say, like, I don't agree. I don't agree with that perception of the United States, and I don't agree with that only because, you know, when April and I, when we announced that we were going to get married and so forth, because we were younger, we were both 20. And you know, the very first thing, and we got a lot of I don't want to say reprimanded, but we got a lot of questioning, we got a lot of negative feedback, and it all came from family. And because all that they wanted to know is, well, why are you getting married? Is she pregnant? Because it couldn't possibly be for anything else, right? It couldn't be because we wanted to get married. It couldn't be because, you know, the religion that we were in encouraged marriage. Now all of a sudden, since it was before college, well, no, they must be getting married because they're pregnant. And so it created a lot of adversity, and it created a lot of animosity. And even though, so my personality is, yeah, you don't want to support me? Screw you. But now I had somebody else. I married somebody that is prone to being a people pleaser. And guess what?
Wow.
Guess what? So now we had to take, and we were involved in it. So I think sometimes, you know, we tend to think that it's you know, there's a price to be paid, even in the U.S., where we have freedom of speech and freedom of choice. There's a price to be paid for that speech or that choice, depending upon the context. And so I think it might not. I haven't heard of honor killings here. I hope that we're not participating in that. In fact, I wish that would just stop. Period. But I also I can understand the psychology behind it as well as much as it repulses me. Go ahead.
You said there's a price to pay, but that price to pay is a personal choice or a personal character trait. Like you were like, but April's like, you know, that's a personal trait which makes you want to take pressure from such comments. Whereas in parts like us, even if you don't want to, you could be the most rebellious person. You will not, the society will not let you exist. You won't be able to rent a house. You won't be able to do all.
Sure.
It gets really insane. It'll
absolutely.
Make it, you would probably just have to give up your family and friends and people who are just getting in your business to screw you. But here, it'll become impossible to exist. You'd probably have to leave the country or something like that.
Well, and that's kind of, and that's a good point. You're absolutely correct. And the interesting thing is, so here's the thing, and the reason that I become like really, this whole topic ends up being a little bit of a, you know, thorn in my side, is simply because of like when I in working with people, I hear this. Oh, you couldn't possibly understand. 1, you're an American. 2, you're a man. 3, you're white. What else do I get told? Oh, you've never walked in my shoes. You don't understand. You know, in a lot of ways, I can't understand. However, what I can say is that, you know, my freedoms, my choices that I have made, the freedom of speech that I have had consequences. I mean, we're talking physics here now, right? For every action, there is an equal reaction. That's the laws of physics. I didn't create that. But what I can say is that the reason we do what's expected of us, because look, man, I'm not a tree. You're not a tree. We don't have permanent roots, and we simply do what's expected of us because that's the choice we make. We make a choice to do what's expected of us because it's acceptance, and that acceptance is part of our survival. It's our family support. We want that family support. It's our people. Yeah. It's where we're from. We want the respect of the community. Certain families, let's be honest, certain families doing what you're supposed to do, it brings us a certain amount of status within a community. And let's not take in, you know, especially, and I'm just going to say, like for a woman, financial security. I've talked to a number of Pakistani wives, and, you know, I understand that divorce laws are very different in your part of the world versus mine. But at the same time, FQ, what I'm going to say is that we're making a choice. We do have obligations, but we're still making a choice to not be uncomfortable. Because, and I'm not trying to say that people in all parts of the world have the same opportunities. I'm going to just come out and say, I'm assuming that people's choices in Karachi are different than those of the people in Lahore, simply because of geography, because of socioeconomic status. So there's a lot of things that impact our choices and what's available to us. I am going to say, though, as difficult as it is to go against the grain, especially with family, because now, again, we're talking survival. If you don't do what your family wants, like you were just saying, you might not be able to get a job. You can't get a job. Even if you have a job, guess what? You can't rent a place. You can't get a house. You can't. So there's a lot that's factored into this. I am just simply saying, instead of saying, oh, I can't do that, I can't do this, accept the choices that you did make. And the choice that you're making in many cases is to make the choice of the path of least resistance. Go ahead.
It's interesting you brought choices. You know what? Right. Even if the culture, your family or your environment, whoever's coming against you, you make a choice to conform. Even here, if you want to make the choice, say, I don't want to, you could. But guess what? We've been brainwashed from even when we're not born in a mummy's tummy. We're brainwashed. You will not make a choice. You will do exactly as you're told. Right. Even if you're 80 years old, if you have a mom who's 102, you will do what she says.
Yeah.
Now, you would have those cases too, but that is not the norm. Over here, that is the norm. There is no way you can defy or go against by brainwashing. You can if you want to, but 99.9% people dare not. Well, I wouldn't say dare not. I would say do not. Because they can. No one's stopping them. But then the guilt which has been associated with it.
Yes.
And it's been indoctrinated. Indoctrinated.
You're totally right.
The day you're born, oh my God, you're going to go against the neighbors, uncles, sisters, father-in-law's wish?
Right. But let's take something a little bit more simple. Let's take something a little bit more simple, like what's going on in the United States right now. It's personal choice. People that want to take it when they go to a sporting event when they start up again. I mean, it's their personal choice that these players, they made a choice to take a knee. Colin Kaepernick made a choice. And this was a multi-million-dollar person. So he made a choice to take the knee, and guess what? They exercised their choice to no longer keep his contract valid. So I'm just simply saying that I understand if we take it and go down just a little bit, not when we talk about things that are a matter of our survival. Yeah. For me, FQ, it came down to when I felt the most ostracized was when, I wanted to be a part of my church. I wanted to be a part of the religion, and they kicked me out. So now you're talking now I wanted to be a part of a group that no longer wanted me. So again, we're talking choice here. When I got back a part of the group, then I didn't want to be a part of it. So there had been an evolution in me where I no longer wanted to be a part of it, and that's created significant family discord. Significant discord with the family because we're no longer part of the religion. And so if you're no longer part of the religion, now you don't get to heaven, and now we can't be together in the afterlife, and so you're screwing me. And that's what this, you know what I'm talking about, where you lived here long enough. And it's kind of like the fear
of the afterlife is another amazing thing, man. The afterlife.
Yeah. And here's my perspective is, well, if the afterlife is full of people like you, I don't know that that's really where I want to go. So I think that what we're talking about is when we look at some of the choices, let's just take employment. Take it, we stay in an employer for a long time. We might feel like we're abused, we might feel condescended, we feel disrespected, any number of things, and yet we stay there. We're making a choice to stay there, and that could just simply be because it's the path of least resistance. So it's not that we don't have a choice, it's that we're choosing to go along, or we're choosing to stay the course and go with the flow. And that's okay too. It comes where the real angst comes in. And listen, I'm not gonna even try to pretend that I understand being told who to marry or when to. I don't. What I am going to say, though, because that is different, and now you're saying, now I have to attach myself to somebody. I can't possibly speak to that. However, I have stayed at a job. I have stayed at a job because, one, I liked the social aspect of it, but I hated the work. So I was making a choice to be miserable with the work because my friends worked there. So again, sometimes we say that we don't have choice. When we don't have choice, now we feel that angst, we feel miserable. Really what I'm saying is you're making a choice to not experience discomfort.
While we're talking about two different cultures, I'm going to throw in one thing to bring, which I just realized. The industrialized society, I will not use the word Western, industrialized society, is designed for children when they grow up or come of a certain age. The system is designed for people to live independently.
Yes, yes.
Your housing, the cost of your housing, you could rent a shitty place for little money. You could live on the street,
right?
As you've done. But the system works towards it. You can take up any job. You can be a janitor, or you can be a doctor, or you can be a fashion model, or you can be a porn star, Sylvester Stallone, the Italian stud. You can do anything to exist, and no one's going to come after you for that.
Right.
If you choose to go that line, you can go that line. You can become completely anonymous and get a job, washing cars in wherever. It's all right. Over here, the biggest challenge is if a young man or a woman decides, I want to live on my own, it's impossible.
Sure.
By law, a single woman cannot rent a place. She can't even get a bloody hotel room by law. Not always enforced, but it's there. The system is so important. You can't find housing. So if a young man of, say, 19 says, I want to go on my own, he will not be able to get a house to stay in or a room.
Sure.
No such concept. And we get a lot of really poor slum living.
Yeah.
The average lower middle class survival is impossible if you don't attach yourself to the family. And that is the biggest tether which holds you to blackmail by your family.
Of course. Because
if you tell dad, at 21, I don't want to marry which is going to shock you again, my first cousin, you don't have a choice. Where will you go? When you walk out of the door, there's no place to go. There is just no way you can go. Unless if you've really done something phenomenal that you've got so much money, which is it's not happening here.
Right.
So as a result, that tether just latches you in. You're chained. You can't. So what do? You make that fucking compromise.
Right. Right.
Whereas the industrialized world is designed for individual living.
You're absolutely correct. And you're right. And all I'm going to say to that, FQ, is yes, it is meant to live independent over here. And the downside of that, the downside to that is, I know that it gets looked at like, that would be great. However, the downside is, and listen, as I approach my 50th birthday and as I get a little bit older, I don't like what I'm being faced with, which is extremely high medical bills and having to live in a state-run facility, which is what a lot of our elders end up doing. So the other side to that independent living is that once you've outlived your usefulness, fuck you, get out. Yeah. We're going to stick you in an old person self-storage unit. That's what I like to call these care homes that keep popping up, assisted living facilities. And they're good for a lot of people.
The industrialized society.
Well, it is, but how I'm also going to say is that the way that I hedge my bet so that I don't end up living in places like that is I take and invest my money in places like that so that True capitalism, man. True capitalism. Again, I will profit off of your displeasure. So
there are a lot of housing communities developed around the world where you can buy a place. It is for assisted living. You don't go into a facility, but you could live in a community of assisted living, and you can buy luxury houses and apartments and shit with healthcare and stuff like that. So you can do that as well. But the price of individual living versus family living, and that's the price of industrialized world. That if your dad, God forbid, if somebody's dad dies on a Monday, he can only go bury him on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Because you know what, your employer doesn't give a fuck if dad died. Over here, somebody would just come in and say, my aunts, sisters, fathers, first cousins, neighbors, uncle died, and you'll get the day off.
Okay.
To go bury him. Yeah, it's the common. Oh, my aunt died. All right, take the day off.
So, common thing, you bring this up. You bring this up, and I just have to ask. I know it's a little bit of a diversion. I just think it's kind of an interesting thing. Is one of the I had to in my when I was still with the fire service and in public safety, one of the things I had to implement, and I got my ass kicked over this. I literally had to take and implement policies because of requiring a death certificate in order for somebody to get time off when a family member died. And the reason, I implemented that after I had one guy. And he wasn't the only one. This guy was the most egregious. But I would have people coming in and telling me, hey, you know what, man, my dad died. I'm like, dude, your dad died last year. What are you talking? I mean, so over here we kind of had that. I guess that's my question. It sounds like it's a little bit more of a matter of respect over there. And over here, what I have seen in my experience, and again, these are exceptions to the rule. Not many people did this, but it was like, well, I need some bereavement leave. I need time off. I had a death in the family. Oh, so sorry to hear that. Who passed? Well, that's none of your business. So, I mean, I'm going to just come out and say that the one who's his mother actually died 4 separate times, because I went back through the file. His mom died 4 separate times. This is also the same guy who he faked having cancer. So, I mean, that...
Oh, fuck, man. Okay, now this guy's an artist. So this guy's an artist. But over here, people kill their uncles quite often. Uncles,
really?
aunties, mom, dad.
Okay.
Yeah, they die. I mean, it's easy to kill an uncle because over there, an uncle dying, you don't get bereavement.
No.
Sympathy.
No.
But over here, like I said, your sister-in-laws, first cousins, neighbors, neighbors, daughter-in-laws, father-in-law died. It's all right. Yeah, you can take time off.
Well, you know what, and totally agreed. So I appreciate you, indulging me for that. When I want to kind of say, as we, because I think we need to take some questions, but it's really, I think we have as humans, we have a tendency to compare and contrast, and what we say is, oh, this is better, and instead of looking at something as though it's better, looking at it as it's just different. And so it's just simply different. When we start looking at cultural relativism and so forth, it's not that one is better or worse, it's just that it's different. And at the end of the day, and I do want to say this, is that in many cases, the third biggest reason, and I'm not saying when you eliminate family obligations, and that's a big pull, and I'm fully acknowledging that. But there's a lot of things in our lives where we say, oh, I have to do what society wants. And it's stuff that society doesn't really care about. And the truth is, in many cases, we go along with it because it's easier to just go along with it and piss and moan about it at a different time. So complaining is easier than actually taking action. So take and do, use the options, use the agency that you have with where you're at. So it's not all inclusive. It's simply about a mindset, because when we start thinking that we're being oppressed, man, our lives get real shitty real quick.
As I say, the other man's wife is always greener. So when you see glamorized, industrialized world living, it looks like really fantastic. But we were watching something on the tube the other day, and Bina and I was sitting, I said, you know what? Americans have a real shit life, because half the time they would be sleeping on couches in friends' apartments.
Yeah.
And over here the family would, between your uncles and aunties and relatives and even distant relatives will take care of you if you need something. There are a lot of people to fall back on, right. And likewise. When you get old and you don't have to go be warehoused, there's a lot of family structure that comes looking for you and comes protecting you. So there are pros and cons. You're absolutely right. You can't say, you haven't walked in my shoes. Well, you haven't walked in my shoes. So there's a pro and con everywhere. There's a price to pay.
Yes.
Neither one's a utopia. You're good and bad everywhere, man, and you have to take it and play the cards you've been dealt.
Exactly.
You gotta stop bitching and moaning, man.
And to really focus on the choices that you do have. Focus on the choices that you do have, and that are available to you. And when we can make that switch, now what we've truly done is that truly goes to the nature of this show, is why we've called it Reboot. That is an easy way to take and reboot, is to understand, just simply acknowledge that, hey, you know what? This choice isn't available to me, but this one is. And really what I'm choosing is I'm choosing to experience the benefits of doing what I'm told, or going along with it. I want to experience those benefits as opposed to the negative side effects of individuality. So it's still a choice if you choose to look at it that way.
Everything in life is a choice, man, and there's a consequence to every choice. Simple as that. There's a choice, there's a consequence.
Yep.
No bitching and moaning and complaining. If you made your effort 100%, and then if shit doesn't work out, you can feel bad. But if you haven't given it your 100%, you don't even have a right to feel bad.
Right, absolutely.
And you can't say that I wish I was there. I wish this was my situation. I wish that was my environment. No, fuck you, man. No. Doesn't work
but you just said it, I wish. And really what we're talking about is dreaming, right? I mean, dreams aren't reality. You have to take action in order to make dreams reality. And you know what? Truthfully, man, like getting up and moving to a different country or immigrating or anything, like that those are challenges. And it's not always available to everybody just due to all kinds of different circumstances. But when you at least acknowledge the fact, it's so liberating to acknowledge that, hey, I do have a choice here. I might not like everything about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but even if you immigrate, assuming that you'll have a better life there. I mean, I'm going to give you a personal example. Just short of the lockdown, I was in Malaysia and I was quite, hanging out there. And suddenly I knew I ran back home. Mm-hmm. And when I came back home and my government started fucking things up, I kept saying, God, I was better off there. That government's doing better. But I'm saying, if I was there, I was living in an apartment, and I'd have to walk because I would have to walk, pick up my water bottles and grocery, and I'd be dragging it over, living in an apartment. And so over here, my government's screwing up, but guess what? I've got facilities, I've got staff, I've got space. I've got people doing shit for me. My family's here. My sister, my children, parents. There, I'd be alone. So you can't say that if you go there, you'd solve all your problems.
No.
You will solve some problems.
Yep.
But then you would have different problems.
Correct.
You have to see which ones you prefer. Which ones are easier to deal with.
Yes.
There will be problems everywhere you go.
Absolutely.
Scandinavia is fantastic, but you know what? Finland and Sweden, they've got some serious rates of suicide. Because the freaking winter they have, and they're locked in forever.
Yeah.
So the whole Gothic culture comes out of Scandinavia. So my point here is that everywhere you go, you cannot escape all problems. You can choose that I'm willing to take these problems, and for the advantages I get, and you find the best place or situation, environment where I say I'm okay with these problems for the good that I'm going to get. That's the best you can do, man.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say, from my perspective, the reason, and I completely 100% agree. The only thing to add to that is I think for me and what I've noticed with myself is that I look at other countries and cultures and it's like, man, that'd be really cool. And the reason that I would like that, especially in some place of a language I don't speak, is because guess what? Now I don't have to be involved in the day-to-day bullshit that we're constantly, having it run in front of us. And so for me, that would be a pretty amazing deal. Like, hey, man, I don't have to get involved. I don't have to do this. Like I can just kind of go off and do my own thing. And that's true until I need to communicate with somebody in that area and I don't know the language. So now, even though I've solved some of it, what I've done is I've created another challenge on another perspective. So
solve 10 problems, create 5 new problems. Anyways, quickly look at the comments, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to look at this one. Irfan, assalamu alaikum. So, wa alaikum salam.
See, well done.
I learned something else. I just wanted to throw that in there to kind of, get some cultural kudos.
Impressive.
our good friend Umar. Hey, Umar, thank you so much. Yes, it's been a long time no see, and yes, I will reply to your private message. You, you filthy jerk. I want to break free from your lies. You're so
Thank you for picking that line.
I absolutely know that line, and you know, Freddie's a god in my world, man. Like he's it doesn't get much better than old Freddie Mercury. He did a great job, and one of my biggest I don't have a regret. I guess it kind of is a regret. Is he was here. I was a little bit too young to go last time he was here in my area, and then of course he passed. You know, got sick and passed and stuff. So I didn't get to see him. I will say the one thing I am actually disappointed in is I did not get to because I had tickets to Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden, and that's back when Axl Rose was kind of being a crybaby and canceled the concert. So anyway, that was one of those things. Let's see, Raffia, things that I feel so-called daily briefings are pointless because there is no point. Yeah, you know, I don't know. That's you know, you're talking about. You know, people have to do what they think they need to do to keep their jobs, and I don't know how your political system works so much other than, like, yeah, all these politicians seem to be giving daily briefings that just seem more like they're, like, giving themselves hand jobs. So, more to the point of getting some balance. Umar, thank you. Peer pressure is another form of cultural pressure. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Peer pressure does play a part in this. And you know, again, we want to be accepted. It's a survival instinct. So, yes, absolutely. Let's see. Just kind of real quickly, people generally follow the rat race and don't even know what their dream is. Yeah, that's very, very true. Yeah, they don't know it, so it's not clearly defined, and so it's based on what I want instead of looking at what I have and what I can create with what I have right now available to me.
What's weird is that you'd be in the rat race while you're probably a cat or something. You know what?
Right.
You'd be running races which you don't even belong in.
Raffia, this is a good one. I don't even sure what people say, but if my parents say, no, you can't wear that, I will listen to them. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I get it. This isn't to say that this is good or bad. It's just simply to acknowledge that these cultural expectations exist. And instead of getting so upset with them and going, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, that's really where this whole topic it was originated for me, is being told, I can't do this, I can't do that. All these people joining the I can't club. And really, it's like, well, wait a minute, let's look at it. Oh, you don't understand. You couldn't possibly understand. No, I guess not. I guess not. I guess your life's just going to suck forever, so enjoy it. So anyway, it looks like we're kind of short on time today, and so I really just appreciate everybody's engagement. Let's see. I like this one because it's nice to me. Well said, Dennis. It just depends on what we want. Consequences come later, and we have to face the results. Absolutely. For every action, there is a reaction. And our good friend Irfan, I'll try to strike a balance, and we'll continue to so that people around me, friends and family, do the same. Yes. Sometimes it's really...
we keep doing the balancing act forever, man.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes somebody to take and make it a little bit off balance, and then once things get unbalanced and uncomfortable for a little bit, guess what? We usually always find our equilibrium again, and it's a new one. So discomfort can lead to comfort. Just keep that in mind. So, Fessel, like that's what I really just think is important here, is to just not so much to say, oh, my culture, it's so oppressive. Look, there's oppression everywhere. Let's maybe tone it down with the words we use. Let's maybe just take and look at this from a different perspective of, it's not that I don't have a choice, it's that I'm choosing the path of least resistance. And that's empowering, just in the fact that now I do have a say. And listen, I didn't want to get kicked out of a church. I didn't want family ostracization or anything else. But you know what? I get to do what I want. And so, but there's other things I had to give up in order to get that. So that's
you'll never have everything. You'll have to strike a balance in what's going on around you. Again, play the cards you've been dealt. Make the best of it, man. Try to win the game.
Absolutely. So, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. This was fun. I appreciate a little bit off topic, so appreciate that, and we'll get back to our regular, F the world tomorrow. Or actually, no, today is Thursday. So there will be no reboot this
yeah.
Friday, just kind of a little change in scheduling. There will not be a reboot episode tomorrow, Saturday, or
No,
Sunday.
we'll
So
see you Monday.
we'll see you back on Monday. Until then, kick ass always in all ways.
Cheers, guys.